This is the color app routine that will show each canvas. Canvas 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's in subprogram 8, tab 4. The first thing it does, it gets the given pattern 2 and puts it in the list called Pat2. It then uses the TAW, the tall and wide action, to change it from being the square that it was to being a rectangle by saying its tall should be 100%, but its width should be 150% of what was given. So it's going to become wider. Then it uses the tick action to place a value in t over time that is going to go from 0 to 799, then back to 0 to 799. It's going to repeat that action over time. Then we're going to set A to 700, F to 200, and then we're going to start a loop over C, where C is going to start at 1, and long time down here, it's going to say next C for 1. This C is going to vary for each canvas. In fact, we see the next thing it does is it says changes to canvas C. So the first time it's going to set the canvas to canvas 1. Then it's going to set the size to 500 and X to the value of A, which up here was 700, the value of Y to 200, and it's going to create a dots list from the pattern at Pat 2, which we created right up here. Then it's going to set Q to 0, color to black, and then after it sets the color to black, we could insert here the action that would make a poly draw. It would show us this dot list drawing right before it makes it into a sub canvas. See here, Pat 2 with option 15 sets this rectangle that it made from this pattern into a sub canvas. So if we would put a poly draw down here after it changed the color to 0, it would show us the sub canvas. But we don't have to have it to actually have the sub canvas. Alright, then after that it changes the color to the color for the C canvas. First time, that'll be the canvas 1. And then it says if it's not equal to canvas 1, go to BG. That's down here. But the first time it will be canvas 1, and it sets T to 410, W to 1010, and XY position to 0, 0, and then it does a rectangle fill. Well, 4, 10, 10, 10 is the entire size of the screen, and it starts the upper left-hand corner at 0, 0, and we know it's for canvas 1, which is the background. So it's going to completely fill the background with this color that was given for canvas 1. Then it's going to go to BH, which is the very end of the 4 next loop for the canvases. Well, canvases 2, 3, and 4 will continue down here. They will set how tall it's going to be to F, and then it's going to subtract from F 20. So each time it's going to draw a rectangle, that is color in a rectangle, for each one of the canvases, it's going to make it less tall, which means that the rectangles aren't going to overlap each other. So we're going to be able to see how long each canvas's colored rectangle is. then sets the width of it to A, and up here we have that it's 700. But we're going to see at the end it's going to increase the width by 120 each time. Well, also it's going to set X to 0 and Y to 0. Well, that's the upper left-hand corner of the screen. But what you're going to see is that because of the subcanvas, the rectangle is not going to start at the upper left-hand corner of the screen, but it's going to only be where the subcanvas exists. Well, it does the rectangle fill. Now we're going to take the canvas color and put it in line as text. Then we're going to fill at line +8 a 0. That's the position where the transparent value is. It's going to be made a 0. Then we're going to take the value that is in line and take the 8 digits and create a value in D. This value in D will be the same as the color value, but where the transparent digit is, it'll be 0. Then it sets RS, the rotation value, to 0. It sets P to the value of T. That's the value that changes over time. Multiplies it by 100. That's because the patterns are 100 positions apart, and this P is going to use to pick the particular pattern of the blob that it's going to use. Then it sets J to C. Well, the first time it comes down here, C is going to be, for the second canvas, it'll be a 2. It's going to subtract 2 from it to make a J of 0 then. It multiplies that J times 1,000 and adds the T to it. The 1,000 is because the XY values for the canvases were stored 1,000 apart. That is, J will be 0 for canvas 2, it'll be 1,000 for canvas 3, and 2,000 for canvas 4. Then it's going to go around the loop to produce 50 blobs for the canvas. It's going to go here from I of 0 to next I 49 1. That's going to go around 50 times. It sets the value of E to D. Remember, D is the color without any transparency, but the blobs have a transparent value. And here it adds that value for the ith one into E. What happens is the transparency goes from 8, which is nearly invisible, down to 0, which is no transparency. And here it sets the color to E. Then the value in P is modded with 10,000. We made 100 patterns for blobs, each having 100 values in our pattern list. So we have to make sure our P doesn't get higher than 10,000. In fact, up here, when T would be 800, it would be way higher than 10,000. So we have to get it back in the range for our blob patterns. Then we set the size to the size of the ith one. Again, the size was going from 54 down to 4. The blobs change in size over time. Then we get the XY value for the blob, and that comes from the X values and the Y values that were created by random numbers. Then the next thing it does, it says build the dots list for that pattern at P, and then do the polyfill for the blob. Then add 100 to the value of P, so it'll go to the next blob pattern, and add 1 to the value of J, so it'll go to the next XY values. I upped the screen a little bit. Here's where it ended the making of the 50 blobs. And the next line instruction says, do a dots with option 16. That means remove the subcanvas. Then it says add 120 to the value of A. That's used to position the X value for the rectangles. Then it says next C to 4 one at a time. It's going to go around this big loop for each one of the canvases. When it is done, it makes sure it changes the canvas to 2. The active canvas is normally canvas 2. And that's the end of the routine. So this is the building of the canvases for Color app.